What is going on, folks? You are here to witness history. That's right, this is my very first episode of Straight from the River, my brand new podcast. I should probably start with my name too. My name is River, and so I'm sure you could put two and two together and see where I got that super clever name from. But yeah, I figured I'd throw I'd throw my hat in the ring and make my own podcast. I watch a lot of YouTube, follow a lot of people on Spotify and SoundCloud, and I figured that we didn't have enough mid to late 20-somethings with a podcast making commentary on things, so yeah, I thought, fuck it. I was gonna add myself into that mix. But again, thank you for tuning in to the episode. This is my very first podcast ever, so I'm sorry if there's a couple like slow points or anything like that. We're getting the hang of it. We're going to do it. This is the first episode. Someday we're going to look back on this, do a review episode, and say some shit like, oh, I can't believe I've come this far. Wow, this is insane kind of thing, But, yeah, so I guess just start with a little bit about myself. My name is River, like I had previously stated. And I live here in Colorado. I live in the Mile High City. My lady and I, we are both enthusiasts, I guess you could say, of cannabis as well. That's a big part of our daily hobbies and things like that. We like being involved with the marijuana. So we could see more of that coming along with this podcast too. And yeah, love doing art and stuff like that. So again, that could be another topic we could see popping up here in the near future. And in regards to the podcast theme as a whole, just kind of not really going with a specific theme or a certain direction. From the start, I just wanted to start content creating again. I used to be really good at trying to stay on top of things, like doing weekly just like art content for Instagram, or I used to be really into rapping and like making music and things like that. But yeah, as of late, because of COVID and last year's craziness, I don't need to go into detail because literally everyone was there for it. Just put a lot of things into perspective last year. I felt like I've let a lot of my art and my creative aspects kind of atrophy. I haven't really been up to date on doing my graphic design stuff. I haven't made music, goodness, in what seems like at least half a decade. It's ridiculous, man. It's been too damn long. So yeah, I figured I was just wasting my time. I wasn't doing anything with it. I was smoking weed and playing video games, which, nothing wrong with that. But I just wanted to get out there. I wanted to do something. I wanted to just be involved with media. It's always been something that's super interesting to me, is just media in general. I'm a big pop culture fan. I love comics. I love tons and tons of movies. Big fan of like hip hop, rock and roll music, especially like I'd probably say like 2000s, 2010s, like underground hip hop, like strange music and, psychopathic records. Yes, I know I used to listen to the Juggalo music, and I'll be honest, I still do sometimes. But yeah, I just love being involved with pop culture and media in some degree. So it's really cool to actually take this opportunity to try and make a podcast. But yeah, on today's first episode, I just wanted to kind of talk about get a little bit into spirituality as well. That's always been something that I've been interested in growing up, and it's kind of cool to actually have an opportunity to talk about things a little bit. And specifically more so with the spirituality, today I really want to talk about like spirit or totem animals and totemism, because that's something along with the metaphysical and spirituality that I have been interested in from a very young age. And as of recently, I've really been jonesing to get a new tattoo of like a bear head on me, just because I truly believe that the bear is my totem animal. And for the longest time, I always felt like that, like without getting too sappy or anything like that. I grew up moving around a lot when I was a kid. I went to a bunch of different schools and things like that growing up, so it wasn't really consistent. Didn't really have a solid group of people that I was always connected with. I didn't have a pack, I guess you could say. And so I really found a lot of solace in bears and things, because bears are these big, burly, tough creatures, but for the most part, they're solitary animals, but they still go through the day just fine. there are times that a bear will cross the path of other bears, at the watering hole or whatever the instance may be. But for the most part, bears are solitary animals, and they lumber through the day, minding their own damn business. But if you poke the bear, well, you get the claws kind of thing. And I felt a connection to that. It made me feel not so bad about being alone, I guess you could say. Because a lot of people growing up, I had a couple friends who talked about their wolf pack and, their tribe, their crew and all this, and never felt like I really had that. So it was cool to find this solace in an animal. Oh, excuse me. It was cool to find this solace in an animal like a bear. And it's kind of funny to lead off of that as well is I have, here, let me back up. I have Native American in my blood, like many Americans. I have Cherokee, I believe, on my father's side, and I have either Comanche or Ute on my mother's side. So I have a decent amount. I would like to get more connected with the culture as a whole, because it's not enough for me to say, oh yeah, I'm 1/5 Native American and just leave it at that. Because if I don't know anything about the culture, or I don't do anything to preserve that culture and keep things alive, then really I don't see a point in just me bragging about, being Native if I'm not doing anything to preserve that culture or keep it alive. But yeah, sorry, trailing off a bit there. That's mostly what this podcast is going to be. It's just me rambling and trailing off into different areas and forgetting what I was talking about initially. But hey, man, that's why we're here, But to backtrack a little bit, my spirit animal I see is definitely a bear. That is my guardian animal. But when I was younger, I found out that my grandmother on my father's side, my paternal grandma, had written me a note or a letter around the time I was born. And when I was a baby, she and my mother took me to see a Cherokee chieftain in Arkansas. And this chieftain, he had actually blessed me with the name Little Bear. And so it was just really wild for me to find this note again, because I found this note probably when I was 22, 23. So it had been a good amount of time since I found this note, that I had already come to that realization that a bear was my spirit animal. So to get this confirmation, not just from my family, but from a chieftain himself, to bless me with this name, it was really a great honor. And I felt like there was definitely a purpose for it. There's a connection with that. And so, yeah, that's me. My name is River, but I am River Little Bear. I was born with the Cherokee name Uea, which is river in Cherokee. And so, yeah, that's currently who's on the microphone, is Uea Little Bear. Pleasure to meet you. But yeah, to go off more into totemism, here, let me just pull up the laptop real quick, because we're going to get a quick definition of what totemism is, just so I'm not rambling on like everybody's on the same page, or by me assuming everyone's on the same page, But let's see. Oh my goodness. Do you gotta love these ad blockers on these websites? I'm just trying to find a quick definition. Okay, here we go. So, the definition of totemism is the system of belief in which humans are said to have kinship or a mystical relationship with a spirit being, such as an animal or plant. The entity, or totem, is thought to interact with a given kin group or an individual and to serve as their emblem or symbol. So yeah, and to make it short and sweet, it's an animal that you feel you have a spiritual connection with through representation or interest, characteristics, experience, It's, just finding a spiritual connection to a specific type of animal. And a lot of Native American cultures believe that we have a specific guardian animal, which is our main spirit animal. And, I see mine as the bear. But a lot of cultures believe that there are multiple spirit animals that go along with the totem. Because, as you can see in many Native cultures, totem poles were representative of multiple different beings on them. Some would be, a single animal or a single spirit, but there are also common depictions of totem poles being multiple spirit animals stacked on top of each other. And ours are the same way. Just in a spiritual sense and not a physical sense, if that makes sense. And physical sense, spiritual sense, if that makes sense. Lots of the same words, lots of repetition. But anyway, I digress. I was doing a lot of thinking about the totem animals because I also recently came to the conclusion that a magpie has got to be one of mine too. Because I love magpies. They're devious little fuckers. They like messing with people. They like just poking and prodding, not stirring the pot, not trying to cause like grand levels of shit. They're not trying to like be chaotically evil, but they are devious. You know, they're devious little creatures. They like taking things, they like the shiny and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know, I like magpies because they're devious. They're smart enough to know to mess with people, and I think that's just kind of funny. But yeah, similar situation with that more recently. As the other night, my lady and I, Brianna, she and I went to go get some wings for dinner. Just random up the street place, fire over the mountain, bomb-ass wings. If you're ever in Denver, Colorado, and you're looking for a good wing spot that has some vegan options too, highly recommend fire over the mountain. But pulled over there the other day. I'm walking in to get my food, and as I'm walking in, I notice a black feather on the ground. And I think, oh shoot, that's like a crow feather or like a magpie feather or something. And I just thought it was kind of cool. Looked it up, found out, like, you know, I like looking at the symbolism of this stuff. It's just interesting to me. It fascinates me. It captures my attention. But I looked up what it means to see a black feather, and it's seen as a guide from your spirits, or it's seen as a symbol from your spirit guides. It's a symbol of protection. It is, to a lot, a symbol of luck. And it was just really nice because things have been a little hard lately, you know? Like, a lot of shit's been going on in the workplace, lots of grand changes, lots of big movements being made. So it was just really nice to have this feeling that the spirits were watching out for me. And I know some of you might roll your eyes at the metaphysical stuff or the spiritual stuff, but that's part of who I am, you know? Like, that's who I am, man. Like, I just like to believe that there's a reason for things happening. And so I saw this magpie feather yesterday, thought it was super cool. And today I dropped Brianna off at work, and I didn't want to go straight home after dropping her off, so I went for a nice little drive around the city. Ended up at this really awesome metaphysical shop called Ritual Craft. It's up off of, oh goodness, I want to say like like Wadsworth and 44th kind of area. Awesome shop. Again, if you're in Denver, Colorado, you're looking for a cool little metaphysical shop, highly recommend it, because they also have a bomb-ass tattoo shop next door too, owned by the same people. But goodness, man, I feel like I got a burp. Ugh. But I went to Ritual Craft today because I wanted to look around. I wanted to get myself a new plant. I was feeling kind of down because of work and stuff lately, so I thought, fuck it, treat yourself. Walk in there, and they have these nice little tables set up, like each one's like designated with a different theme. Like, you know, there's one table that has like plants and stuff like that. Another one that has like animal parts, like bones, feathers, like shedded snake skins and things like that. Little animals in formaldehyde. But it's just a really awesome shop, really cool shop. And I went in there. I go to the animal parts table. First thing I see on this table was a bundle of magpie feathers. Like, that was it. Just a bundle of magpie feathers. I just thought it was wild how last night, as I was leaving to go home for the evening, that I found a magpie feather. But then today, then the first place I go to after leaving my home kind of thing, or first place I went into, I guess more so, after I left home this morning, was this shop, and I see these magpie feathers. I just felt like that was confirmation right there too. Confirmation of another one of my totem animals, because magpies are smart, man. I feel that connection to them. They're smart. They like messing with people. They don't want to hurt people. They're not like evil animals, but they like being devious, and I can admit I like doing stuff like that sometimes too. Just being devious, poking buttons, playing devil's advocate kind of thing. But they're very tenacious animals too. You know, you can look and you can see magpies in practically every part of this world. And so the fact that they've been able to not only like find their own place in this society, but like have fun with it, I think it's kind of cool of the animal. And so I find a lot of admiration in that. But another spirit animal I would say that I have a connection with too would be the frog, honestly. And for a lot of people might see that or hear that and think like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what? Why a frog? But I actually had to do some research into it today because I was curious. I've always had these little like statues of frogs since I was like 9 years old, and they're cool. They're like these little wooden frog figures, and it has like a little stick you can like run along their spine so it sounds like they ribbit. But I've always been fascinated with them. Super cool little figurines. And I've always loved frogs because of that reason. Like, I just like having these little figures. So I looked it up online, and because you gotta love the internet, you know. But I found this little website, and the funny thing with these metaphysical websites is I feel like the worse like the website design is, like the least amount of user-friendly websites are the one that are these oh my goodness, let me start that over. I'm jumbling over my words. I feel like the metaphysical websites with the worst design, with the least user-friendly interfaces, tend to have the most and the best useful information, to be completely honest. Like when you open a website and you see some giant blurry pixelated image of like a fucking fairy right next to the name of the website, you know it's going to be a good website, and you're going to find a lot of good metaphysical and spiritual info on these sites. But it just makes me laugh. It's very funny. I hate to be like that. I don't know what I don't know what the correlation is between heavily knowledged metaphysical spiritual people and a lack of intuition with web design. But that's a tip from me. If you're looking for some good info on spirituality, look for the shittiest designed websites and you will find it. But I found one of these shittily designed websites that had a lot of information on totemism, or animalism, I think is what it's also called. And I was reading about the frog, and frogs are a symbol of the elements of water, which makes sense. They're amphibians, but they start their life cycle in the water. And I learned that frogs are actually a symbol of, fertility, obviously, because they lay a lot of fucking eggs. They're a symbol of change because of their metamorphosis from tadpole to frog, but they are also a sign of renewal and cleansing of water. And I just think that's really nice. That's really fascinating, because a couple years ago, to correlate back to that, a few years ago when I was heavy into my rap music, making hip hop music and all this stuff, when I was doing it like practically daily, I was in the middle of developing an album. And with the album cover, I wanted to go more like alchemical symbols, like I'm an apothecary, or I think that's what it is. Like, I know an apothecary is like the place, but apothecarian, I don't know. The dude who works in an apothecary. I wanted to be like a chemist. What is it? Alchemist. That's what the term is. I wanted the idea of the album to be centered around alchemy. So I was using symbolism in the cover art, and the biggest alchemy symbols that I had placed, the most prominent ones on this album cover, were the symbols of purifying and the symbol of water. And I just thought that was really, that was it, that was the idea of the album, was to purify me with this cleansing water, to wash away the toxin, because the album was called Elixir, and that was it. That was my elixir. When all of the poison and ugly negativity of the earth was getting at me, that music, that album was the remedy for it. That was my elixir. And so that's why I made sure to put the alchemy symbols of purify and water in it. And so today, when I looked up the frog symbolism type thing, and I found out that they literally represent cleansing by water, it was just really interesting to me. It was pretty fascinating. I thought things lined up pretty well with it. It was very serendipitous. And I got a funny story with that too. I laugh whenever I say the term serendipitous, because years and years ago, I was at the Colorado Renaissance Festival. Super awesome place, by the way. I'm just going to also recommend a bunch of shit to do in Colorado in this podcast too. So if you're ever like planning a trip here, if you just moved here, something like that, you'll have to listen to a lot of my ramblings and my trailing offs, but I will sprinkle in some really good recommendations for places here in this city, in this state. So I got you, bro. I got you. But, shit. See, again, rambling, trailing off. I digress. Back to the story. So I'm at the Colorado Renaissance Festival a couple years ago, and I'm just at the incense stand. I smoke a lot of weed. I need incense for the house. It's the only thing that really covers that weed smell. And as I'm standing at the incense stand, this girl comes up, this flower girl, very hippie, which, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, man. I grew up in Colorado. I know a lot of hippie people. My name is River, for God's sake. Like, I can't make too much judgment against like the hippie community, but this girl runs up to the incense stand because she found her totem animal. She found a necklace. She found a necklace with a turtle on it, and she ran up to the stand. I was standing right next to it. Like, she like barreled past me, this like 98-pound like microbrew drinking hippie, like shouldered past me to get to this little necklace with a turtle on it. And she was just talking about how she had recently done some research into her spirit animal, and it was just very serendipitous that she found this necklace. And like, yeah, it was like she used it in the right terminology. Like, yeah, it is very serendipitous of you to find this right after figuring it out. But it was just the way she said it just resonated in my fucking mind for the next 7 years of my life. It just makes me laugh. It makes me chuckle. It was very serendipitous of her to find it. And sometimes I'll have situations where coincidences happen or things line up properly, and I always want to use that fucking term, but I can't use serendipitous because I always think of this little hippie flower child from the Renaissance Festival. So, whoever you are, fucking Moonlight, I don't know what your name is, but thanks for that. Now I can't use serendipitous anymore, so I hope you're happy about your turtle necklace. Oh, goodness. But yeah, I find some connection to the totem animals. I find a lot of connection to spirituality and to the metaphysical. And I'm not sure if the term metaphysical is the right term that I want to use or that I'm supposed to use, but we'll figure that out as time goes along. I'm sure people will correct me and let me know, because I am very fascinated by the spiritual community. But if I'm being 100% honest, I'm not exactly the most in tune with it. You know, I don't really practice a lot of like rituals or like spells and things like that. I like learning, you know, like I don't necessarily like follow astrology too hard. Like if someone like sneezes or some shit, I'm not going to be like, typical Aries or something like that. But I do feel like there are some things with astrology that do correlate very accurately with people's personalities and characteristics. And an example of that is the fact that I am a Gemini. You know, that is my sun sign. I am a Gemini sun, Cap moon, and a Leo rising. But a lot of Gemini are very curious. We like learning, fall down rabbit holes of useless information sometimes, and that is something that I 110% agree with. Because I love that nerdy shit. When I find something that interests me, I just want to learn as much as I can about it, absorb as much info as physically possible, and once I learn all the things that I want to learn about it, then I'm like bored. I don't want anything else to do with it, kind of thing. Like, I play World of Warcraft. Well, I on and off play World of Warcraft. I'm not playing right now. Like, I don't have a subscription at this moment, but it's like a pattern. Every year I'll play for like 3 or 4 months and then get bored, kind of thing. But it's that same concept, you know. They'll come out with a new expansion for the game, and I'm curious. It's something new. I'll learn as much as I can about the expansion. I'll find out all about the new bosses and dungeons and armor, all the shit that you can unlock. And once I find it out and experience it, I don't want to touch the game anymore. Like, they have to come out with a new expansion for me to be inclined to come back to the game, kind of thing. And it's just interesting how that works, you know? But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now with like spirituality and things like that. You know, obviously I would like to get more involved with it for myself, and mostly for my ancestors, really. You know, I don't do a lot of things involving my ancestors. I feel like I have Native American blood and I have Jewish blood coursing through my veins. And I feel like there is a lot of diaspora. Well, I don't feel like there is a lot of diaspora associated with these cultures. And I feel like a lot of people would prefer if these cultures were forgotten about a lot of ugly, hateful people would prefer if these cultures just disappeared. And I don't want that to happen. And so I just want to be able to reconnect with my ancestors, just so I can humble myself and acknowledge and respect where I came from as a person, you know? And because, you know, I have European blood too. I'm mixed. Like, I'm gonna lay that out there too. Not like it's something big that needs to be laid out there, but just so you guys can have some context. I'm mixed. I'm 100% all-American mutt. I have Native American in me, I have Jewish, I have Spanish, I have Latino, I have German, Scandinavian. I'm a mix of like so many people that came to this country. They just wanted to make like a variety pack of a person, and here I am. Depression, anxiety, and all. But, you know, a lot of the cultures that I come from, they do have these deep roots within non-Abrahamic spirituality. And there's nothing wrong with Abrahamic religion, you know, that's a discussion for a later podcast date, because we have so much potential with this podcast. Are you guys excited? I'm excited for this podcast. Like, holy shit, I've just been rambling for like 30 minutes straight right now. Nobody ever lets me do that. I feel like Jerry from Parks and Rec sometimes, where just I'll start talking and not really have like a place to go with it, and just kind of think like, well, I don't know, you know, nobody really ever lets me talk this long, so I'm not sure where to go with it, kind of thing. So I want to apologize for that in advance too. If it ever just seems like I'm saying a lot of ums or just a lot of dead air or like voice fry or something like that, just know that we're working on it, man. We're gonna get better. We're gonna make things work better. And yeah, starting to trail off a little bit right now. So I think this would be a pretty organic place for me to end this podcast episode. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. If you actually listen to my rambles all the way to the end, then kudos. You should get like a gold star or something like that, man. Because I can be a task to listen to sometimes. Not really, but I don't know. You know, self-deprecation. It's a thing that knee-jerks in my mind, so yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this. See what I mean? Very organic ending right now. But thank you guys again for listening to the very first episode of Straight from the River. This is my brand new podcast. It's featuring me, mainly, River, straight from me. But we'll try to get a couple other people in here. You know, I would like to get some guests. I got some family. I got some friends that are very good at rambling with me, that were very good at like just building off of each other into some bullshit conversations. So yeah, stay tuned and we'll see where this goes from here. Again, thank you so much for listening to the first episode. My name is River and we're signing off. You guys have a great week, okay?